Hi, you're listening to Childless and Moving Onward. This is the place where we talk about thriving in life when you're a woman who is childless, not by choice, regardless of the road that brought you to childlessness. Hi, and welcome to episode 79 of Childless and Moving Onward. I'm Gail Miller, your host, speaker, life coach, and physician. And while being childless not by choice is my story, it's only part of it. It's only one piece of the whole. I intentionally mentioned this last because I won't let it define me. Doesn't mean that there aren't still times when the sadness resurfaces, difficult moments arise, old hurts come back up. I experience all of that. But this podcast exists to acknowledge those realities while also exploring how to build a full and meaningful life alongside them. My hope is that with each episode, even if the pain of childlessness lingers, which it does for most, it doesn't control your journey. Here, I focus on ways to live with that pain instead of it leading the way, and instead of trying to pretend it's not there. So today, I want to ask you, do you feel like you come last in your family because you're childless? I've heard this from so many of you, and I've seen it for myself. So let me start with an example. This is a situation I've seen repeatedly with someone close to me. Her son, who is an adult, has children. Her other son, also an adult, doesn't have children. And whenever a family dinner is planned that I'm aware of, when we talk about it, the timing is based on the son with the child and the needs in terms of what time to start conflict. So each of their needs, the two sons, what they need in terms of when to start dinner, conflict. Now, admittedly, I don't know about every time they get together. These are dinners when I'm included. Her son, who has a child, wants to start dinner at 5:30 because that's best for what they need to do when they get home. On the other hand, her son, who doesn't have children, can't get there until 6:30 because of his work. So, what do? They have dinner at 5:30, and his son, without kids, comes in at the end and eats alone. Not that people aren't still sitting around, but he's the only one eating. Now, I get that getting kids ready at the end of the day and bedtime routines, that's important. There's no doubt about that. But why are her other son's needs never considered? Can they every once in a while start dinner later? Maybe then start the bedtime routine a little later. The son who doesn't have children, his work hours are his work hours. He doesn't have a flexible schedule or any way to make it flexible. And again, I'm not saying that his son or her son with kids, that their kids' bedtime routines don't matter. But why does her son and his work requirements and his wanting to be with family during dinner, why does he not matter? And by the way, I did happen to mention this the last time I was aware of it, because it is the kind of relationship we have. And it hit home for her. I don't know if a change will be made, but I just felt I had to stand up for her son, who doesn't have kids. And again, because it's the type of relationship we have where I can speak up about something like that. And of course, she can in return to me as well. Here's the thing, it's not an outlier. I've heard so many stories from women without kids that this is common, happens regularly. So here are just a few of the situations I've heard about. Childless family members always being the ones to do the work for family dinners, setting up, cleaning up, doing the cooking, even if it's not at their home. And this is even in situations where the relatives with kids have grown kids who could also help, but don't. It's all left up to the childless relative and everyone else sits. Another situation, also very common, families that are spread apart. They don't live immediately in the same neighborhoods. They're spread apart. There's, maybe an hour, sometimes more to drive, or you live out of state. And the only relative who ever has to make the drive to be with family is the one who doesn't have children. Again, I recognize, I don't know if you can hear my dogs. I didn't know how long it was going to take before one of them said, "Hey, I'm here." But getting back to this, I recognize that sometimes it's a huge chore to get the kids ready, to get them into the car. But most of the time, the stories I'm hearing, they're still getting in the car, but they're not the ones making the hour drive. They're the ones making the 10 or 15-minute drive. Why is it always the person who doesn't have children who's putting in the effort in some of your families? And then there are some of you who are excluded from family get-togethers, not even being asked. Now, yes, sometimes you don't want to go, and that no is a healthy boundary. But not even being invited and given the choice, that's not okay. And then there's the situations of family get-togethers, and they're always organized only around the family members with kids. And the relatives without kids have to adapt. Similar situations to the one I described at the beginning. So why does this even happen? Well, partly it's society. The world still assumes that having kids makes people the priority, and those of us without children are expected to fill in and shift around every time. We're treated like second-class citizens, and that can feel isolating and heartbreaking. And it leads us to questioning our own value in our families, our own families. But it doesn't end there. The questioning of our value within our families extends. When we feel less than in one setting, we're going to end up feeling that way in others. Doesn't matter how much care, support, and love many of you bring to your families. Too often you feel invisible and sidelined. So what helps with this? Well, setting boundaries. It might mean gently speaking up to ask for your needs to be considered during gatherings. Not every time, but, make it a little bit fair, and don't make it that you are the one who is always making all of the effort. Maybe doing things like proposing a little bit later time occasionally, or volunteering, but also asking others to help. Now, it can be uncomfortable to advocate for yourself. I get it. But it's a form of self-care and self-respect. And remember, it's okay to say no to driving all the way every holiday. It's okay to decline an invite if you weren't included in planning or if the event feels overwhelming. It's okay to say, yeah, I'll be there, but I'm not doing all the work for it. So one really beautiful strategy is to invent your own traditions. Host a dinner for childless friends or for the friends who have kids but would appreciate a night out without them and who won't take over and monopolize the conversation and make it all about their kids the whole time. Schedule a solo trip or an annual you day where your favorite activities take center stage. Spa days, hiking, new recipes, or simply a quiet afternoon. You don't have to pass down rituals. You can make them up from things that make you happy and help you to connect with others. Connection matters. And finding supportive communities can help both online and in real life. There are strong online communities and support groups for childless adults. Connecting with others who get it can help with the feeling of isolation, and there's sources of ideas for new rituals. Think about arranging meetups, and there are online programs that support that support you developing an in-person and sometimes online meetup. Join online forums or causes that matter to you. Friendship among childless people is powerful. It offers an opportunity to get and give understanding, and it offers the chance to have solidarity that's sometimes missing elsewhere. And I realize for many of you, myself included, you are primarily surrounded by people who are not childless. But again, there are ways for you to start a group, even locally, where you can come together, maybe a group that is childless, or maybe it's a group that wants to go on group walks with your dogs. And hopefully then it's primarily people who will focus on dogs, even if they have the human kids. So there is a way to do this, even if you don't know people, to go online. And I believe one place is called Meetup. And you can start local groups based on things that you share in common, like being childless. And something that I talk about a lot, and that is self-care. And self-care isn't just a buzzword. It is survival, especially in seasons or gatherings that highlight what feels missing. Self-care is more than a bubble bath. Those are great. It's setting boundaries. It's saying no to events that drain you and giving yourself permission to prioritize your own needs. Think about what refreshes you. Maybe it's a walk in nature, a day with a favorite book, or a night with people who see you and your value and who you value. So as I wrap this up, remember that being childless is only one part of who you are. It is not all of you. It is not all of who you are, and it doesn't diminish your worth, your impact, or your role in your family or community. Building a purposeful, joyful life is absolutely possible. And each step doing that counts, even the small ones. Although the pain does linger, and I know it does, It doesn't have to lead or rule over your whole life. So thank you for joining me today. Remember, your experiences and your worth are central. This week, try advocating for yourself. Maybe speak up about a family plan or start a tradition that's just yours. Be kind to your heart, especially on days that it feels invisible. You're seen and you're valued here. You're not alone and you are moving onward. All right, that's it for today, and I'll be back with you next week. Thanks for tuning in to Childless and Moving Onward. I hope you enjoyed today's episode as much as I enjoyed bringing it to you. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. You can stay up to date on everything I do by following me on Instagram at Childless Path Onward or on Facebook and YouTube at Path Onward. Until next time, thanks again.